She actually called the cops on me because I turned my backyard pool into a water park. Not a business, not a ticketed attraction, nothing wild. Just some slides, some jets, a little bit of laughter. Echoing through a Saturday afternoon, you know? When the sirens showed up, she was already out front waiting for them. Floral visor perched on her head like a crown, arms crossed so tight you'd think she'd break. And that HOA badge, gleaming in the sun like she thought she owned the law. She pointed straight at my fence and goes, "There he is, operating an unauthorized water park." Yeah, that happened. The officers looked at each other like, is this for real? They expected chaos, maybe a mosh pit of screaming kids, but all they found was half a dozen neighborhood kids splashing around in 12 inches of water, giggling under my homemade sprinkler. But see, Karen didn't care about facts. She cared about control. She wanted silence, order, and power. Didn't matter if she had to fake a crisis to get it. What she didn't know? Every single thing she accused me of, already cleared with the county. Every permit signed, every inspection passed, every inch of that pool legal as church on Sunday. And while she was ranting about community safety, my cameras were catching her breaking 3 different laws on my property. That's the thing about me. I'm not just a homeowner. I'm a civil engineer. I document everything. So, when she brought the police to my gate, I didn't argue. I didn't puff up. I just hit play on the footage, and let's just say, that's when Karen lost it completely. And you know what? If you've ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA or a Karen who thought the rules only pointed one way, I want to hear your story. Tell me where you're watching from. I've been through it. And if you've ever faced this kind of mess, I'm dying to know how you handled it. See, after 20 years designing city parks and public spaces, I finally wanted to build something small, just for me. I was 46, worn out from meetings, blueprints, deadlines that never ended. The city had already taken enough of my energy. I wanted whatever was left to echo in a backyard where laughter drowned out traffic. The house I bought wasn't fancy. Patchy lawn, leaning fence, and the pool looked like a cracked cement bowl that hadn't seen water since the Clinton administration. But to me, it was a blank canvas. My retirement project. A place to rebuild, not just concrete and tile, but some lost part of myself. My brother and I used to dream about having a house where the whole family could gather every summer. He passed before we ever made it real. So, when I started sketching the new pool design, I did it for him. Every line, every light, every jet that arched water into the air. Each one was a little tribute. It stopped being just a pool. It became therapy. The smell of chlorine, the sound of water slapping tile, it felt like breathing again. By the time I got the slide and the splash zone in, kids from the neighborhood started waving when they walked by. Parents smiled over the fence. For the first time since I'd moved in, the block felt alive. One warm evening, the pool lights kicked on, soft blue glowing under the water. The jets glittered like tiny fireworks, and I thought, man, this is what peace feels like. But peace doesn't last long when you've got people who fear happiness more than crime. Because as the laughter got louder, I noticed her, standing across the street, arms folded, visor down, staring at my yard like it was a crime scene. No smile, no wave, just ice. Right then, I knew this wasn't going to be simple. I thought I was building joy. Turns out I was building a battlefield. The first HOA meeting I went to felt more like a courtroom than a potluck. It was inside the neighborhood clubhouse, a neat little space that smelled like lemon polish and authority. Folding chairs lined up in perfect rows, a projector humming in the corner, a banner on the wall. Harmony through rules. That's where I met her. Karen Haves, HOA president. Floral blouse, pearl necklace, posture like a Marine drill sergeant. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that made you feel inspected, not welcomed. In front of her, a leather-bound notebook and a red pen. Lined up just so. Her voice, sweet as sugar, sharp as glass. When it was my turn, I stood and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Daniel, just moved into 43 Sycamore, retired civil engineer. Fixing up the pool, hoping to have a few cookouts when it's done. That last line, that was the match. Karen's smile froze. Her pen stopped. A pool restoration, she repeated, voice going from polite to, well, managerial. Yes, ma'am, I said. It's been neglected, but I'm bringing it back. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. Just so you know, she said, Water features invite liability. We can't have residents turning their properties into public attractions. I grinned. So does micromanagement. That slipped out before I could stop myself. Some neighbors chuckled. Karen didn't. The meeting dragged on. Paint shades, mailbox heights, trash can placement, every detail under her direction. She used words like standardization and community integrity the way generals use. Orders. Afterward, she stopped me by the door, voice syrupy. Mr. Lang, about that pool, please submit renovation plans before any construction begins. We have strict guidelines. I nodded, of course, but my work's interior, all within code, all permitted. Her smile tightened. Still, I'd prefer to review it personally, to avoid misunderstandings. Not friendly. A warning. Wrapped in courtesy. Next morning, envelope in my mailbox, HOA seal. Inside, photocopied pages of guidelines. Half the rules were absurd. No wind chimes after dusk, no driveway washing on Sundays. No inflatable pool toys visible from the street. And a sticky note. For your reference, Section 4B, Water Structures. KH. I laughed, folded it up, and figured she was just one of those people who needs to feel important. But then I started hearing stories. An elderly couple fined for hanging flower pots too low. Young mom warned about a bike on the lawn. A retired vet forced to repaint his fence. Beige wasn't neutral enough. All under Karen's watch. People didn't question her. Some feared her. Most just wanted peace and didn't fight. She ruled the HOA like a queen, exhaustion and paperwork her weapons. Her loyalists, clipboard in hand, snapped pictures of lawns and muttered about community standards. Control disguised as care. And I could already feel her gaze drifting toward my pool, the one thing she couldn't dictate. That night, I went through my HOA packet, fine print, signatures, and you know what? Most of those rules had no legal standing. Outdated. Never approved by the county. Her power? Half of it was make-believe. But people believed it because no one had ever challenged her. Not yet. Didn't go looking for trouble. But in neighborhoods like this, trouble wears perfume and carries a clipboard. A week after the meeting, yellow envelope taped to my door. Notice of violation. Unauthorized exterior modification. Pool jets. The jets weren't even installed yet. Took photos of them in the box. Emailed the HOA. No construction yet. Please confirm before issuing violations. Got a one-line reply. Per Section 4B, any intent to modify must be approved by the board. K. No greeting. No smile. I started seeing how her rules were like tripwires. Mow too early. Paint too bright. Laugh too loud. Always something waiting to bite. Neighbors tried to warn me. Old Mr. Benson, 2 houses down, stopped by. Best keep things low. Karen runs this place tighter than city zoning. I smiled. Zoning boards follow law. He shook his head. She follows mood. Still, I kept working. My permits were approved. My designs stamped by the county engineer. Everything by the book, the real book, not Karen's. The more I built, the more she pushed back. Letter about noise. Warning about storage. One day, she walked right down my driveway, snapping photos like she was the FBI. Excuse me, I said, you can't just walk onto my property. She stared me down. I have every right to inspect for violations. No, you don't. HOA jurisdiction stops at my fence. Step back. She did, but she was smiling. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, her letters spread out like a poker hand, all saying the same thing. Submit. I realized it wasn't about pools or noise. It was about control. I started digging. Read every line of the HOA charter, every amendment, every clause. Out of nearly 80 rules, barely a dozen were binding. The rest were suggestions, relics from another era. Karen built her empire on outdated ink and fear. The first real shot in this war came on a Thursday morning. Another violation, excessive noise, unauthorized equipment. Pool wasn't even finished. Only sound was my little pump. Testing water flow. I called the number. Flat voice. All complaints are reviewed and verified, sir. By who? The board. Meaning, Karen. This wasn't bureaucracy. This was personal. More letters. Improper storage. Unauthorized workers. Safety risk. My contractor Louise shook his head. She's trying to wear you down, man. You ever think about just draining the pool? I looked at the half-built deck. Not a chance. This is for my brother. Paperwork isn't gonna kill it. That night, I started documenting everything. Every letter, every call, every encounter. New camera facing the street. Another by the pool. One above the gate. Logbook by the door. First, it felt paranoid. Until I caught her, motion alert at 10:42 p.m. There she was, flashlight in hand, scribbling on a notepad. Trespassing on private property. I should have called the police, but I didn't. I wanted her to keep digging her own hole. The next wave came from my neighbors. Whispers, stares, an HOA-wide email. Community concerns, unsafe pool activities. Karen claimed I was testing high-pressure jets at odd hours, using unlicensed contractors, endangering neighborhood kids. None of it true, but truth didn't matter, fear did. By the weekend, half the neighborhood looked at me like I was running SeaWorld in my backyard. Miguel, across the street, knocked on my door. Karen's saying you're violating zoning. She says you might get condemned. I laughed. It's a pool, not a power plant. But that's when I knew. She wanted isolation. She wanted the community to turn against me. Her army grew. Phones pointed at my house. Notices for bags of cement by my garage. I sent back time-stamped photos and permits. Her response? Comply or face formal hearing. That smug confidence, the kind that thinks paperwork is magic. She didn't know I don't bow to paper tigers. A few days later, orange cones at the end of my driveway, sign, pending safety inspection. Do not enter pool area. Not. County. Karen. Caught her visor on camera, sneaking out my side gate. Called the county. They confirmed. No inspection scheduled. Everything's cleared. That night, I watched every angle of camera. Footage, Karen's shadow drifting across my yard. That was it. I printed copies of every permit, noise report, and certificate, filed in a binder, dated for the record. Even Louise started to notice. Her obsession. You should put up a sign, Karen free zone. I laughed. Truth was, I was starting to feel trapped. She even showed up while I was gone. My neighbor's Ring camera caught her peering over my fence. That night, I checked the law again. HOA members have no right to enter private property without written notice and permission. This wasn't a war over water. It was a war of proof. And I had just begun collecting mine. The first time the police showed up, it was a Saturday morning. I was cleaning the filter when I heard the crunch of tires, 2 short honks. 2 officers at the gate, complaint in hand. Are you running a business here? And behind them, Karen, arms folded, chin high. No officers, this is my home. Everything here is legal and inspected. They looked around. Unimpressed. Looks fine to me, but we still gotta check. Of course. Would you like to see the paperwork? I led them to my kitchen, binder on the table, everything in order. They flipped through, looked at each other, then at Karen. Ma'am, everything here is legal and permitted. You can't call us every time you don't like a neighbor's project. Her face fell, but the silence after they left, it wasn't peace, it was pressure building. She wasn't done. People like her never are. That night, the blue and red lights from the police car reflected across my pool like ghosts of justice. That came and went too quick. I'd won that round, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the calm before something worse. A week later, letters turned to summons. Stacks of official HOA. Envelopes. Warnings. Board reviews. Fines pending. She'd turned the HOA into her personal courtroom. Her jury the same loyal neighbors who'd been feeding her gossip since day one. Each meeting, an inquisition. Karen, reading off accusations like a prosecutor. Unauthorized gatherings. Potential community risk. Failure to maintain uniform aesthetic. The more she spoke, the more her confidence grew. She fed off silence. Silence from people too tired or scared to push back. But I never raised my voice. I just said, every modification I've made complies with code. I'm happy to provide documentation. Karen would lean back. That's all well and good, Mr. Lang, but your water park isn't in harmony with the neighborhood's character. That word, harmony, like she owned it. Miguel found me after one of those meetings. She's spreading rumors, says you're renting out the pool for parties. I laughed. Do people really believe this? He shrugged. They believe her. Next day, another email. Operating a for-profit facility without approval. By evening, 3 parents pulled their kids from the barbecue I'd planned. Even my niece asked, Uncle Dan, are we in trouble? That one stung. I didn't fight. I just waited. Because patience builds proof. By midsummer, The air felt heavy. I'd become the subject of every "did you hear about?" The HOA called for another special review, this time about my impact on community morale. I laughed when I read it, bitter. That night, alone by the pool, I wondered if I should just drain it. So I'll walk away. But then I looked at my brother's old plaque and wrench, and remembered his words, "Don't let small people ruin big things." Anger settled into something colder. Not rage, resolve. If Karen wanted a war, she'd get one. Not with yelling, but with patience, truth, and proof. I started building my case. Every fake notice, every timestamp, every video clip, filed and organized. "You're building a lawsuit," Miguel said. "Not yet," I replied. "I'm building a mirror. So when she looks at it, she'll see what she's become." Then, the big one, a letter from the county zoning department. Formal complaint. Unlicensed commercial water facility at 43 Sycamore. Karen had escalated to the county level. She wanted the system to be her weapon. The document listed a public hearing. She wanted an audience. Miguel brought me a copy from the community board. "She's calling it a public safety issue. You're on the agenda." I smiled. Good. Let everyone hear the truth. The week before the hearing, rumors went into overdrive. She's saying the pool drains into the storm system. Slide isn't regulation. Jets are illegal. I ignored it. Each night, I organized evidence, permits, records, photos, security footage of Karen trespassing. By Friday, my binder was 3 inches thick. The morning of the hearing, I got up early, ironed a clean shirt, grabbed the binder, and paused by the pool. Innocent, perfect. Thought of my brother. Sometimes the only way to beat chaos is to stand still long enough for it to trip over itself. That was about to happen. The county hall was packed. Neighbors, board members, a few reporters. At the front, 3 zoning officers, Deputy Inspector Carol Evans in the center. I knew her, honest, fair, sharp. And there was Karen, now in a navy blazer, clutching her binder. That same smile as the first day. The hearing began. Complaint filed by the Langford Homeowners Association regarding 43 Sycamore Lane. "Mrs. Havers, your statement." Karen rose, smooth and rehearsed. "Our community prides itself on safety, order, and maintaining standards. Unfortunately, Mr. Lang's recent installation of a commercial-grade water park has raised serious concerns." She listed off noise complaints, blurry photos, a letter from a resident. Talked about unregulated water pressure systems, like I was building Chernobyl. Then she pointed at me. "This project endangers not just our neighborhood, but our community values. We've asked Mr. Lang repeatedly to comply, but he continues to ignore HOA guidance. We're here today to ensure that community standards are upheld." Applause from her little fan club. Inspector Evans tapped her pen. "Thank you, Mrs. Havers." "Mr. Lang, your response?" I stood up slow, calm. "Good morning. My name is Daniel Lang. I'm a licensed civil engineer, retired from the city's infrastructure division. Every modification on my property has been approved and inspected by your department." I slid documents across the table, permits, inspection forms, noise readings. Evans nodded. "Everything appears to be in order." "Now," I said, "I'd like to show a short clip from my home security system." The projector flickered. Footage rolled. Karen's silhouette, flashlight in hand, clipboard under her arm, trespassing at 10:42 p.m., 2 days before her first noise complaint. The room went dead silent. Karen jumped up. "That's taken out of context." Evans looked at her. "Mrs. Havers, were you authorized to enter his property?" Karen stammered. "It's part of my duty as HOA president." Evans shook her head. "That's not how that works." The mood shifted. I closed the binder. For months, I've been accused of breaking rules. All I've done is follow them, the real ones. Karen's face went crimson. For the first time, she looked scared. Evans leaned forward. "Mrs. Havers, trespassing on private property